So, hey, whoa, just bumped my mic. Sup, y'all. So Trump is suing. Let me pull this up. Trump is suing Google, Facebook, and Twitter. And I'm here for it. Okay. Let me just start by saying that he should be suing them. And I'm 100% on his side on this one. I always like to reiterate in all my Trump videos, personally, not a Trump supporter, not a conservative. If you are, cool. I'm glad you're watching. But I am a liberal, which means I support free speech. And that includes for people I disagree with, like Trump. And the fact that he has been censored from social media is something I made another video about and have talked about a lot, but I think it's disgusting. I think it sets a really dangerous precedent. And I think a lot of people across the world recognize that. But for some reason, all the liberals in America think it's great. And frankly, I shouldn't say, oh, for some reason, it's because of the media. The media, if you watch the news now, CNN, NBC, CBS, all the liberal outlets are like cheering censorship, and they're cheering the censorship of Trump, of conservatives, of all the people on what was that? The conservative chat site. I don't remember. Oh man, that's bugging me that I can't remember that. But anyways, the left is cheering it, and it's because of the media. They're basically being like, all these people are spreading misinformation, they're spreading violence, we got to shut them down. And somehow, I don't even know, somehow liberals just don't understand how dangerous of a precedent this is setting up. But then you watch Fox News and they have like Glenn Greenwald on regularly, and like they're talking about how we can't be censoring people, and they're talking about Julian Assange now too. They had Julian Assange's family on. So Fox is like doing all this liberal reporting. I find myself watching Fox all the time now, and like Tucker Carlson, and like agreeing with a lot of what they're saying. Occasionally they will throw in some weird xenophobic talking point where I'm like, okay, you lost me there. But frequently now I find myself agreeing with Tucker Carlson and Fox News. The reason is because like this is serving Fox News's narrative, just because their whole thing is like they just kind of want an opposing narrative to the liberal outlets, and this happens to be it right now. So they're doing all this great reporting on censorship and protecting people's freedom of speech, and like all this reporting that the left used to do. So the tables have totally turned in that sense. Anyways, that's a really interesting aspect of this whole Trump story. But getting back to Trump specifically, I'm glad he's doing this. As this Forbes article says, pretty unlikely he's going to win. But I think this is great for a few reasons. Number one, it gets this conversation rolling. Just in general, gets people thinking about this more. Like, hey, yeah, wait, why are all these tech companies, able to censor him? And should Trump have the right to sue them? I think that's the biggest thing here. Is it's just bringing up the conversation more about this. Obviously, for Trump, I think it's kind of just like he has an army of lawyers, so they probably told him like, yo, we're gonna lose this case, just so you know. But who really cares? Because this is like great press coverage. He's kind of just, to me, it seems like biding his time until 2024 when he can run again, and he's trying to just kind of stay as relevant as possible right now. And this is a good way to do it, since he can't be on social media and communicate with people. This is kind of the only way he can, try to create some sort of story about himself that people will be interested in. So in that sense, it's kind of strategically smart for him. But I don't know. We just need to be questioning this more in the United States. I suppose I don't have a whole lot to say about this, but yeah, I'm glad Trump is doing this. It's really amazing to me talking to liberals about Trump being off Twitter, and they're just like so happy about it, and like do not understand the problem with the precedent that creates. And I always just try to defer people back to this Noam Chomsky video, where I showed it in the last video I talked about with Trump censorship, but Chomsky is talking to these students in his class after a lecture of his, and during the lecture he was explaining how Holocaust deniers deserve the right to have an open platform to say whatever they want and spread their message, even if that message is total BS in our opinion. Which, of course, it's like they're denying the Holocaust. Okay, these people clearly have no understanding of history, have no understanding of social, like society, culture, context, any of that. They're just like throwing all that out the window to say whatever they want. And so these students came to Chomsky and were basically like, how can you defend these people who are saying the Holocaust isn't real? And Chomsky basically says, I'm not defending their belief, I'm defending their right to espouse it and their right to have the freedom of speech. They're not spreading any message that's directly hateful or directly causing any violence, going around saying the Holocaust didn't happen. It's like, yeah, it's stupid as hell, but like nobody's gonna die because you said that. Maybe it'll cause some kind of indirect violence. You could always make that argument. In that case, maybe an investigation is warranted, but there's so many maybes there. It's just like, dude, you can't, based on that, take this person's right of freedom of speech away. You got to let them say what they want to say. So I always just think that's a great example of this, because they're trying to make it into like, oh, no, you're like defending Holocaust deniers. And he just keeps being like, no, I'm not. I'm just pro freedom of speech. There's two positions you can have on freedom of speech. You're for it or you're against it. There's no, in this situation, I believe this, but in this situation, that's not how it works. The other thing people on the left need to understand, as I've said before, is censorship and like taking people's freedom of speech away historically almost always hurts the left more than the right. Right now, it might be hurting the right, but just wait, because the left typically are the ones who push more against the establishment and fight, for the interests of the people against the interests of the powerful. So I don't even know. It's like we really forgot 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, people on the left have been like, what? Like, you can't get deleted off Twitter. I don't know. They used to be all the champions of free speech, and now Tucker Carlson is. So I hope Trump wins this lawsuit. It would be, the thing is, there's not really any, we need to update the First Amendment to apply to social media and to make it so that social media is a public utility. We might just need a new amendment for that, but that's why it's doubtful that Trump could win this, because there isn't really any language in the Constitution protecting him from these big tech companies. But who knows? Maybe by some miracle this goes to the Supreme Court and they have to change the language of the Constitution in order to protect people on social media. I don't know. Maybe that's where we're headed. I hope it is, but we have an incredibly conservative Supreme Court, so that's probably unlikely. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Hope Trump wins. And again, it's not because I agree with his views. I just think he has the right to get on Twitter and talk about them, just like everyone else does. Twitter is the public square. So is Facebook. So is Instagram. All of that is unnecessary. Taking away his social media is like telling someone, yeah, you can have your company, but like you can't be on the internet. It's like, well, what the hell? How am I supposed to run my company? Like, I need to have a website. I need to have like some way for people to find me. And it's like, man, you don't get that. So how is that company supposed to exist? It's the same thing for, I shouldn't even need a comparison, honestly. Like, I feel like this is a very cut and dry concept. I feel that way, and then clearly it's not. So anyways, as I mentioned earlier too, yeah, check out some of Fox News reporting on this. I honestly think it's some of their reporting on specifically Trump being censored, Julian Assange, and Glenn Greenwald is great. And yeah, they're being really honest about censorship and First Amendment rights and all that. So thanks for watching, and hope you all have a good rest of your day.